show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Bass in your face. Bass in your face.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or are watching this channel for the first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because here on this platform, we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions. But not everyone uses logic. So for that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. Good evening, Irby. Thank you very much for stopping by. Okay. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who already subscribed to the channel, whether you've been a supporter from the very beginning or just joined us latest today. I really appreciate all the love and warmth that you continue to give me. Also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Yes, watchers, please hit the like button. I really, continued support really touches my heart. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who allow me to enter into the devices and those who watch from the cloud, even the haters. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you have not done so, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification to all. So therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. I also have another channel, a much smaller channel called Latino Diaspora, where I talk about issues pertaining to Latinos, particularly Latinos born and raised in the United States. The link to the other platform is in the description, and I'll ask you to, please consider checking that content, subscribing, and all that good stuff. So with that being said, the topic for tonight is the myths regarding Puerto Ricans. But before we get to the main topic, I have a few things to say, okay? First of all, we're going to start with another what the heck this is moment. Now, let me explain to you why we're having this moment. Okay, I took Greyhound to go to Philadelphia this weekend. Okay, I had a comfortable ride over there, going back. The air conditioning was set to my specification, being it was nice and cool. Now on the trip back, there was a passenger that had a child that was wheelchair bound. Would you believe that they did not have a bus with a wheelchair lift for passengers who are wheelchair bound? Now, excuse me, how I'd like to know, how is it possible that a company like Greyhound that makes millions of dollars every year could not provide a lift for a wheelchair-bound passenger? I find it to be very disappointing. Okay, And it just highlights, unfortunately, the challenges that the physically disabled have when they wish to travel. Because many of them who are wheelchair bound, they are at the mercy at modes of transportation, which is supposed to provide a lift so they can board the train, the plane, or what have you. Okay. Apparently, Greyhound never knew of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it took two or three passengers um, to get this child to a seat and to stow the wheelchair inside the bus. I have a huge problem with that. Okay, a huge problem with that. And I do hope that Greyhound addresses this issue that going forward, that all these buses be equipped with a wheelchair lift. I mean, here in New York, all the buses, including the express buses, are equipped with a wheelchair lift so that a person who is wheelchair bound is able to board the bus. I find it extremely disappointing. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to have another episode of In My Words. First of all, let me just say that, of course, we all know that today is Memorial Day. Now, for a lot of people, Memorial Day is the unofficial start of the summer season. However, the reason for this day is not really to announce the beginning of summer. It is to recognize the fact that there are men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice and died defending our country. Okay, died defending the rights that we enjoy now. Okay, through all the different wars and armed conflicts that this country has engaged in. Now, the fact of the matter is, we may not always agree with the United States as far as getting into an armed conflict or war, whatever you, or what the Korean War was called, a police action. But nevertheless, when we put men and women in harm's way, we need to we need to honor their courage, honor their bravery, and should any of them unfortunately pay the ultimate sacrifice and died defending our country, our hearts need to go out to the families of these people because there are people that have lost sons and daughters, spouses, parents, grandparents, siblings, and close friends. Okay. So we need to bear that in mind that freedom is not free. And these men and women paid the ultimate price with their own lives, shedding their own blood so that we can enjoy the rights that we have. And with that, I think what we need to do is we need to um, take these rights that we privilege that we have being in the United States more seriously. Okay. And if we really want to honor these brave people, the best way we can do so is to is to value um, the privileges and the blessings that we have in this country. Now, the final thing that I'm going to talk about is In Gordon Goss's last live stream, which I would recommend that you check it out. The topic was Exados Unite in a Hot Seat. Okay. And this is regarding certain remarks that Exoticals United made when it comes to mixed and biracial people. Okay. Now, personally, I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't get involved in YouTube politics. Okay, because that's an internal dispute, and I don't get involved in those things. Unfortunately, among the people that was on the panel, there was one person named Opedy that, for whatever reason, could not understand the purpose of the topic and stick with the topic, and actually spent, believe it or not, half an hour arguing that Creole is not a language. First of all, with all due respect to Uppity, it is not your place to be questioning whether it is a language or not. Well, okay, that is not that is not your place. With all due respect, and normally mature people can state an opinion, and if someone disagrees, they can just simply say, you know what, we're going to disagree, and then keep it going. But the fact was, she kept going, hopping on the topic for 30 minutes. As a result, disrupted the stream. Okay. Now I understand that Uppity is a friend of Golden Goddess. Okay, fine. But this is the thing. When you go into another person's platform, regardless who it is, you have to do a better job of reading the room and try to stick with the topic that's being discussed. And if you have nothing to contribute regarding the topic that's being discussed, then you know what? To simply say, you know what, I don't have a lot to talk about. Maybe I should hop off, or maybe I can just ask questions. But for her to hijack the stream to get into a debate with Creole, Lady Creole Marmalade, that's not cool. None in my book. Okay. And if people don't like me saying it, too bad. Okay. Now I've been in multiple platforms, and I'm able to read the room. Okay. And the fact of the matter is, I'm going to be respectful. Yes, I saw it. I saw it this morning, Irby. I will put on my community tab. I mean, look, the tab. I mean, the stream was good, with the exception of that 30-minute point when Uppity basically took over, and you have people getting off the panel because they didn't want to, because they didn't, if they had stayed on the panel, it would have been an argument, and it would have been a full fight. So I commend Multi for her showing restraint, because she could as easily argue with Uppity and going back and forth, but she just says, let me hop off. So I just want to say, Multi, kudos to you for that. And this serves as a lesson to everybody. When you are on another person's platform, try to stick to a topic that's being discussed. And if you can't, then hop off. And then to add insult to injury, arguing with Lady Creole Marmalade regarding whether Creole is a language or not. I mean, please. Yeah, you know what? I think she was giving everybody a headache. Everybody. To be perfectly honest, Irving. And in all fairness, I caught it on a playback, but when everything's said and done, I think it would have been better. It was better that I didn't hop on because I would have gotten a headache as well. Okay. Um, and this is not the first time that she did this. So like the first time that she did it, I kind of like maybe she's new, whatever. But after a while, it gets a little annoying. It gets annoying big time. So tell us a word for the wise. When you go into another person's platform, try to stick with the topic that's being discussed. Okay? And if you can't do it, then hop off. But don't argue with the other panelists regarding a topic that you want to talk about, which has nothing to do with the topic at hand. That's just my take in the whole thing. Okay. So, and usually I don't talk this long before I get to the main topic. It's just that I have a lot on my mind. Okay. And one more thing. I was away in Philadelphia, and I was able to spend some time with Don Amando, which we talk shop and things like that, and talk about things behind the scenes and what have you. So, and I also subscribe to uh, Lady Creole Marmalade today. So I'm gonna check out her content. Maybe at some point, she might I might she might hop on this platform and she can share her knowledge regarding herself and regarding Creoles. Good evening, Ramon. How you doing today? Thank you very much for stopping by. And of course, I just want to let everybody know that the Intro Boricua has his own channel. So I'm going to ask if you have not done so, please subscribe to the channel. Okay. So let me just highlight this. Okay. So with that being said, we're going to get into the main topic. Now, before we get into the main topic, I want to state that the link to join the panel has been pinned. So, if anytime anyone is what wishes to join the panel and opine regarding the topic, they can do so. Let me just state for the record that if I have never seen you or heard from you before, I will insist that you come up on the backstage for the following reason. I want to make sure that you're not a troll and then that you're not going to flash anything inappropriate, which will cause the good people of YouTube to take down the stream. So now everything all being said, um, now we're going to discuss the topic: the myths regarding Puerto Ricans. Okay. Now, why am I even talking about this? Because it is clear that there are people that have misconception regarding Puerto Ricans, whether it be Puerto Ricans that were born on the island, like my friend, the intro Boricua, or Latin explaining with Denise Gonzalez, or Puerto Ricans that were born and raised in the United States. Okay, look, I'm gonna say this. Okay, first of all, let's okay. Let me make this perfectly clear. Anyone is welcome to come here, but as far as anyone ruining the stream, okay, when everything is said and done, I'm responsible for the content of this platform. Okay, so first of all, Tiger, thank you for walking for stop. First of all, walk. Thank you for stopping by, Tiger. Okay, now as I stated before, there are a lot of myths regarding Puerto Ricans. So some of them are common, some of them are huge, and some are not huge. Let me just state the first myth when it comes to Puerto Ricans. We're not Spanish. Okay. The language we speak is Spanish. Okay, but we're not part. Okay, when I mean we're not Spanish, in other words, we have our own culture. Spain has its culture with, and then we have our own culture. Our culture is based of the Caribbean, of which, okay, I mean it's one thing, but I'm glad that you're here anyway, so maybe you can understand um, a little bit more about us. The reason why I say that we're not Spanish because if we were to go to Spain and claim that we're Spanish, they're gonna laugh us. They're gonna laugh us silly. Good evening, Mo. Thank you very much. Yes, let's get those likes up, please, and a huge shout out for the 10 people viewing this. Okay, so that is the first myth. The second myth is we're not Mexican. No offense to our Mexican brothers and sisters. Okay, because the problem is this: when it comes to Latinos, when it comes to Latinos, we are separated into three different groups. You have the Latinos that's from the Caribbean, and that consists of mainly Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and Cubans. Then you have the Latinos from Central America, which is okay. Okay, well, that's fine. You have the Latinos from which is basically countries like Mexico, uh, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Panama, and what have you. And then I see we have a guest. So before we continue, let me just state for the record that the views of those who appear on the panel are not necessarily those of the host of the channel. Any attempt to copy the material without the consent of the host is prohibited. By appearing on the call, you waive your rights to your image. Some of the views that people hold may be considered offensive to some viewers. If you do not like the content, you can block the channel. Now we're going to bring on guests. Good evening, Ramon.
Good evening, Jose. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you doing tonight?
I'm okay. I'm all right. How about you?
I'm doing fine. I mean, you know how I feel about summer, but it is what it is. Um,
Well, summer is a good thing because we human beings we need warmth. We need warmth weather. Cold is something that is adverse to us. That's not for us. We need to have the warmth weather, the warmth of the sun. That's healthy for us. That gives life. Cold it kills. It kills life. So
Actually,
I know you like it so much. I know you love it. I know you love the cold because you're Mr. Freeze. I called you Mr. Freeze for a reason. But yeah, I don't want to get into that now. But there is something that I wanted to ask you
yes.
before we go on. You were saying something. I don't know. Maybe you were talking about a previous. Hey, Multi.
Hey, Multi, how you doing? Thank you very much for stopping by.
I think that you were talking about something about another live stream, and there was an issue. I know I'm kind of like trying to come across both.
Let me explain to you what was the issue.
Hmm.
Um, Gigi did a stream regarding the issues with Exoticals Unite and some of the things that she said regarding biracials. And
Oh.
then there was a person on the panel that basically spent half an hour debating and arguing regarding that Creole is not a language. So basically, what she did was she basically took over the stream and started arguing with with some of the panelists.
Hmm.
Okay, and my point was when you go into another person's platform, try to stick to the topic on hand.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if you don't have anything to contribute, maybe you should just step down and or maybe just ask questions.
Yeah, that's something that really should go on. Generally, that should be kind of like an unwritten rule for everybody because we see it. We see it that there are certain folks that get into a panel and they want to make the panel about what they want to talk about. And somebody who is a host should know better than to let that happen because they're letting somebody else come in and take over and make the live stream about what they want to talk about. I mean, like, kind of like, for example, something that I wasn't cool about was when you and I were on Gigi's live stream, and this is not a knock on her. I mean, she does on her live streams as she pleases. But I had a problem with someone else who was kind of like wanted to taking over, wouldn't stop talking and trying to yell at you and me about us being West Indians, which is not a thing. That's something that I might need to do a live stream on that or a video myself. Um, but that's something that didn't sit well with me. But then again, it wasn't my live stream. I couldn't say anything. But that's something that I may need to address. That whole notion that that trying to tell us that what we are when we know what we are. And one thing that we are not is either Israelites, which is something that I did mention. We're not Israelites. We're not West Indians. The whole thing about West Indians that was never a thing. That was a misnomer. That's something that I'm looking some information into that so I can elaborate a little bit on it. But from what I'm finding, the whole West Indian thing, it wasn't really a thing. That's kind of like a divisive label for certain islands of the Caribbean that were part of the English Commonwealth or are part of the English Commonwealth. They're the only ones that used the term West Indian for a long time. It may have started with Columbus, but not one time in my entire life in Puerto Rico we ever called anywhere in the Caribbean West Indies. We never said that. We called it the Antilles. So but that's something that I wanna elaborate later on.
Well, in all fairness, Gigi is not here um, to give her
Mhm.
rebuttal
Yeah.
regarding this, and we need to be fair about that. Okay.
Oh, no, I'm being fair because I'm not really talking about Gigi. I'm
I
talking about the
understand that.
other
I
three
understand that.
that
All
was
I'm just simply,
trying to
I
get
understand. And
out
believe
of.
me,
Uh-huh.
part of it, no. Let me tell you something. That in a way kind of inspired me to have this topic because
Mhm.
there's a lot of ignorant people that don't know jack regarding Puerto Ricans. Let's keep it real.
Mhm.
To some people, we're Mexicans. To some
Oh
people,
yeah,
we're
yeah, but that's nothing. That's nothing. I mean, it's just these other newer things that we're getting yelled at, talking about that we're Israelites or that we're West Indians or that Spaniard wannabes, or that we're reunificacionistas, as in the reunification thing with Spain, which is not a thing either. It's like literally like five people, at least in Puerto Rico, there are literally like five people total that want that out of almost 3 million people. So there are people that assume things about us, but they don't know jack.
Yeah, which is why we're having this discussion tonight, and I'm glad that you're here so we could discuss some of the myths. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, the first myth I discussed is that we're not Spanish. I mean, we speak Spanish, but if we were to go to Spain and say we're Spanish, they'll laugh us out. They'll laugh at us
Hmm.
because the dialect of Spanish that we speak is quite different compared with the dialect of Spanish that they speak.
Yeah, they speak. We speak more of a more modern version of Spanish, while in Spain they still speak a slightly older version of Spanish. I mean, where there are certain words that sound more like Portuguese or um. it- it- let me give you an example. Let me see if I can give you an example.
Mhm.
When they say the word haber, they say habéis. I mean, they say words that are older. There's many of the words that they say are kind of like older. If they say, they don't say nosotros, which means us. What they say is vosotros with a b, with a ub.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? There are certain words that they say it uh, different, and it comes from an older version of Spanish. We over here we speak kind of like a more modernized version of Spanish that might be a little bit simplified, but just a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's not the same. I have heard Spaniards how they speak, and their Spanish. There are many words that they say it very differently. That they sound it sounds like another language.
Okay. Now, before we continue, let me just state that the Intro Boricua and Multi have their Plaque channels. So I will ask if you have not done so, please check out their content and subscribe to their channels. Okay. Um, Now, another myth when it comes to Puerto Ricans is that we're all undocumented, which is not true because we
Yeah,
have U.S.
well,
citizenship.
yeah, on that one, I don't even care anymore. If somebody wants to assume, make an assumption, make a fool out of themselves by assuming that I might be undocumented in this country, I don't care anymore. Because there are Puerto Ricans that get deeply offended and they start uh, having to defend themselves. No, I'm an American citizen. I don't care what they say. I don't care anymore. There was a time when I might have care if they want to assume that I'm illegal. I don't care anymore. Whatever. Let them make assumptions. So if somebody wants to step to me talking about wanting to see papers or something like that, they're gonna get embarrassed. So I'm not gonna be going around trying to prove myself to others. That's the mistake that some of our fellow Puerto Ricans, particularly from the islands, that they try to go out of their way to try to impress somebody. No, I'm a citizen. I'm an American citizen. I don't go around talking like that. I mean, somebody wants to ask me questions, I don't mind that. If they really genuinely want to learn. But if they want to assume something about me, they can assume all they want. I mean, it's not my job. It's not my job to educate them. I mean, if we're talking about adults, we're living in the information age, and they can take that up for themselves to get educated, whether it is doing the research or actually coming to somebody like myself or like you, maybe because maybe you've had to deal with that yourself. Um, Coming to us and actually ask the questions, trying to ask the questions so they can learn. or do the research. But too many
Yeah.
people assume, even with all the information that is out there, they still choose to make assumptions, not knowing what they're doing, not knowing what they're doing or what they're talking about.
Okay. Now, would you like to share with the audience, Ramon, some of the myths you think are out there when it comes to Puerto Ricans?
Well, you said something about uh, being Mexican. I have heard that. I have heard something about that when you say, "Well, I'm from Puerto Rico," and they might ask, "Where in Mexico is that located?" Because they actually think that Puerto Rico is somewhere in Mexico. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that is that. I mean, another some other assumption could be I haven't had to deal with directly so much with the whole immigration status thing, but the other well misconception that could be related to the first thing that we say about nationality, asking me about tacos and quesadillas, things like that. I don't need none of that. When it
That's
comes to how
Mexican
we,
food.
yeah, how we nourish ourselves, like we're not against it. I'll have a taco every once in a while. I'll have a quesadilla every once in a while, but that's not our food. Our food is Caribbean food. And that's another misconception. This is something that I've had to deal with myself. They think that Puerto Ricans, they start asking me about uh, tacos and quesadillas and chimichangas and
Well,
chalupas, things like that. It has happened to me. So that's another
well,
misconception. Mhm.
do you recall? Do you recall? I think our friend Denise, her mother had a situation when she was flying, and then they asked her mother to show her passport because she was traveling domestically.
Oh, I didn't know it had happened with her mom, but I do remember another Puerto Rican that was traveling from the island to New Orleans. Sorry. And when he went to pick up his rental car, they were demanding to see a passport because the driver's license that he had apparently wasn't valid. And they were assuming that because he was from a foreign country, they were seeing it as that he couldn't pick up his rental car with that license, with the Puerto Rican issued license, which is valid. In other parts of the United States, you don't have a problem with that. But this man from the island, uh, got to New Orleans to the airport, and he went to pick up his rental car, and he couldn't get his rental car because of that. I don't remember the company that it was, but yeah, because they were demanding that they see a passport, and the man traveled without the passport. I mean, you don't need a passport coming out of the island. It's recommended that you have it just to avoid that situation, that type of situation, because it's uncomfortable and it can make you lose time. Maybe you are a little pressed for time when you're traveling, and that can make you um, lose time to get to where you're trying to go.
Yeah. Look. I don't. Okay. I'm a little different because one thing about me, um, when I fly, I usually get to the airport, depending whether it's a domestic or an international flight. If it's domestic flight, it's 3 hours, or if it's international, 4, because you got to give time for checking in security, and sometimes the lines could be humongous.
Hmm. No, yeah, especially when you're talking about these airports, these international airports where people are coming from everywhere in the world. I mean, I have been for the first time. I went to JFK. I actually went through JFK, and it took a long time, but that's because it's big and it was so full of people that getting myself checked in for my flight when I was coming back. Yeah, it was a bit of a journey. And I saw the same thing a couple of times when I had to take a connecting flight in Miami. Yeah, Miami is busy. That's a busy place.
Yeah.
So especially when it comes to those airports that are port of entry, international port of entry. So yeah, the those are you have to do that with plenty enough time. But still, even if you do that, and some official doesn't have their information updated, and they still assume if you don't have a passport and you have like a Puerto Rican driver's license, and they assume that you are coming from another country, you are foreign.
Yeah.
Now I understand that now the driver's licenses, they are gonna have a special detail, a special like an additional detail of information that says something about US, like the driver's license is valid to drive in the US, which is something that I have done before. I mean, I never for a time. Well, at least at first, when I first moved to the US, I was driving around with my Puerto Rican driver's license, and it wasn't an issue. But eventually, I did make the change because of the convenience of it. It makes things a little easier.
Good evening, Giorgio. Thank you very much for stopping by. And of course, Giorgio has his platform. So if you have not done so, please check out his content and subscribe. And another thing we have to make there is a distinction between Puerto Ricans born and raised in Puerto Rico, like yourself, and people like myself, born and raised in the United States.
Okay. Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, yes, we have to acknowledge the factual differences that inevitably are gonna be there between us. But for the most part, that is one of those myths is that we on the island we hate New Yorkers. That's not true. That's not true. We may have our differences, but we are well aware as to why there is a diaspora, and it was because for basically the same reason why I don't live in the island right now. It was out of necessity. I get it. We get it. We understand. We know the history.
Yeah.
From the 40s and the 50s, there was this great migration of people. And there were Puerto Ricans before that, but it was a very minute amount. It started kind of like in the 40s, particularly in the 50s, after 1952. That's when the so-called Commonwealth was established, and that's when it lifted whatever restrictions there might have been for people from the island to travel, because even though there were granted citizenship on the island back in 1917, to this day it's still kind of like a second class type of citizenship that can be revoked. A lot of people don't know that. I mean, you're born in the United States and you have the citizenship that could never really be revoked. But for us that are from the island, it's a little bit of a second class type of citizenship because it is not exactly the same. It has more conditions to it, so it can be revoked easier.
Yeah. Of course, another myth is that we all politically think alike. Okay. First of all, because you have Puerto Ricans that, for example, they favor statehood. You have Puerto Ricans who favor complete independence. And then you have Puerto Ricans who favor that Puerto Rico remains in its current status, which is quote unquote a commonwealth.
Yeah, the thing with the whole thing about the political situation, unfortunately, too many people on the island don't think really politically. That has been starting to change in the last few years, and the whole thing about the statehood, the whole thing about the argument about the statehood, that's something that the older generation, they're the ones that are talking that. The younger generations, they're kind of seeing things more for what they are, because there is the pro statehood party that has wasted a lot of time for years trying to advocate for statehood for the island. And the thing is that that's a Congress decision. Congress decides that. They're never gonna do it. They're never gonna do it. I mean, whoever to this date in 2024, this is still with the whole pro statehood garbage. They need to let that go. I'm somebody who wants for the island to have more sovereignty, and that the criminal Jones Act be lifted, because that has been economically detrimental to the island. I mean, that's a crime that has been committed to the island for over 100 years, and that has greatly to do with the debt that has been artificially accumulated. That's artificial debt. All of those billions of dollars that they say that the island owes, that's artificial. That debt was created to enslave the economy of the island. So that the Jones Act needs to be lifted, because it is economically detrimental to the island, and the island needs to be allowed to have commerce more freely with neighboring nations. Puerto Rico can get what it needs at a more fair price, but because things have to be done through the U.S. Merchant Navy, which is the most expensive in the world, everything costs about 20% more, and a lot of the time cost even more than here in the United States. It's criminal. That's a crime. That's an economic crime that has been done to the island.
Well, in all fairness, I mean, there have been times where the Democrats been control of the White House, the House, and the Senate. Okay, and there was definitely no movement to make Puerto Rico a state. With the fact that we have divided government now, it's far less of a possibility. And my
Mhm.
personal opinion is that the people who actually live in Puerto Rico, they're the ones that need to decide what is their fate. Okay.
And we can decide, and certain decisions have already uh, been made. But whatever it is, statehood is not going to be one of them. The United States, at least the government, profits already too much out of the island as it is. I mean, because they can say all of this about sending billions of dollars in aid to the island, but companies, and now because of that criminal Act 60 that gives all of these tax incentives to the rich people that are moving to the island, and they don't have to pay uh, local taxes, capital gains taxes on revenues made by their businesses. They don't have to pay taxes on that because of the I wanted to cuss, but that there used to be, like, it was like the tax Act 20 and Act 22, and they have been combined into what is now called the Act 60, which is preferential treatment when it comes to the tax incentives that are given to the foreigners that are moving to the island. And these tax incentives don't benefit the locals. They do not benefit the locals. So it's criminal. It's exploitative. And we have the corrupt, the criminally corrupt political leaders on the island that are kind of like taking a cut out of it and pocketing it, because they don't care about the island. They don't care about what is in the best interest of the island. So they don't care about selling the island away to foreigners.
Yeah. Well, as I recall, I think our friend Denise spoke a lot about the political situation in Puerto Rico, and and it's crazy. Now, in all fairness, when I was in my younger days, I actually thought about retiring and moving to Puerto Rico. At this point, I wouldn't even consider it. Um, Considering the political situation and things of that nature, um, I might as well stay in New York.
Mhm. Mhm.
But and also the differences, the culture differences between us, because first of all, you being born and raised in Puerto Rico, you have a different upbringing, culture, and otherwise
Mhm.
compared to people like myself that was born and raised in New York.
Mhm.
Good
Yeah.
evening, Didi Juju. Thank you very
Hey,
much for
you
stopping
too.
by.
Hey.
And actually, she also have a channel, so check out her content, please.
Yeah. Check out
So
the Juju's channel.
yes. So is there anything else you'd like to share regarding some of the myths, or maybe you may not experience, but maybe some of you know other people that are born and raised in the island have to endure?
Well, I mean, one thing that we have to endure is that we don't have representation in any part of the government here in the states. There is something called the resident commissioner, but resident commissioner, that is a glorified spectator, because that's all it is. That's all it is. That so-called prostate who Jennifer Gonzalez, well, you're always hearing about her. I think she's still the resident commissioner, or was a resident commissioner. That's a glorified spectator in Congress. She get whoever is the resident commissioner gets to go to Congress, go to Washington, whatever, and maybe watch Congress making decisions about the islands without having a voice, without having a vote on it. That's the way it's been. That's the way it's been the entire time. I mean, Puerto Ricans in the island don't have actual representation. So they don't have a voice, and they are just there to be exploited. And the thing is that hopefully, hopefully in the coming years, in the coming generations, that eventually those change.
Yeah,
The island needs a voice.
yeah.
Resident commissioner is not it. That's not it. They don't get to say anything. They are the spectators.
Okay. Good evening, Don Armando. How are you doing tonight? Actually, this past weekend I was in Philadelphia,
Hmm.
so we kind of linked up yesterday, and then we just kind of like shoot the breeze a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Armando, what's going on?
So yeah, you know what? That's something that it's a bit of pill knowing that they're U.S. citizens, but they're not able to have a role in life in the island or what's going on in Congress.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And until that changes, all that we can do is trying to advocate for things to be better on the island, and make an effort to hold the leaders, the so-called leaders, accountable for their actions or their non-actions, because the many of them are just too corrupted. They don't watch out over the what's in the best interest on the island, and some of them, the, their their allegiance is somewhere else. Their allegiance is not necessarily in Puerto Rico. Like, for example, I'm not trying to knock on Cubans, but Jennifer Gonzalez, she's actually the daughter of Cubans that were in Puerto Rico, and the current governor, Pierluisi. I don't know exactly where he's from. I don't think he's from the island because there are too many people that are in political office and they have these names that nobody has. So it makes me wonder where they're from. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So it's like they line up their pockets and then they leave. They leave the island with their uh, with whatever they took from public funding, whatever they could get their grubby hands on.
um, Ramon, I think you kind of hit a nerve with DG Juju.
Oh no, but this is a fact. Look up Jennifer Gonzalez. I mean, her parents are actually Cuban. Now, that in itself is not necessarily a bad thing, but it brings to question what loyalty there might be to the island. I mean, she's lining up her pockets just so she can move to the United States, which is something that many of them do. Like the two governors, father and son, both of them left the island. I mean, they lined up, they got a little bit of money, and they moved to somewhere like in Maryland or something. They moved somewhere in the states. They're not in the island anymore. Many politicians do that. They have used
You
their
know,
position in office, get some money, and once their term is up, they leave because they already got their pockets fattened.
yeah. Could it be maybe the governor is saying it's from Spain or Italy or maybe somewhere in South America?
Who?
No, I'm talking about the name. The name
Yeah.
of the governor.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Pierluisi. That's his last name. What was his first name? I so not care about him. Luis. I think it's his first name, Luis Pierluisi.
mhm.
But I'm not. I don't know exactly about. Pedro. Pedro. That's his first name.
Okay.
Mhm.
Hey, Denise, long time no see.
Hey, Denise. What's going on, ma?
Well, if you're able to hit the panel and join in the conversation, great. If not, I get it because you know,
No,
uh,
Irby, he's not. It's not allegedly corrupt. He is corrupt because it's like the whole situation with that piece of garbage um company, that Luma company that's supposed to be running the power grid in Puerto Rico, and that's a private company, and they're doing such a shitty job, and they're getting paid millions, millions in public funding, but they're doing like the shittiest job that any company has ever done for the power grid in the island. I mean, it's basically getting like, so it's sad to say because the Dominican Republic has been dealing with power outages for like decades. Puerto Rico is getting like the Dominican Republic when it comes to that. It didn't used to be like that. Yeah, there will be a power outage here and there every once in a while. It will happen. If it will rain too hard, the power will go out temporarily. And okay, you will wait until it will stop raining and eventually power will come back. But now, even without rain, the power just goes out randomly, and it's becoming the norm. And that wasn't a thing on the
okay.
island. It is a thing now.
Good evening, Rakeem. Long time no see. I'm glad to see you in the chat. Irby, I actually, on one of Denise's streams, she actually had a whole stream, actually one or two streams regarding the situation regarding Luma. I think it's about 2 years ago. So, I would suggest that you check it out for yourself. It will give you a bigger understanding regarding what's going on over there.
Yeah, it used to be better. It used to be better. I remember when I was growing up, it wasn't so much of an issue. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't so much of an issue. But today, it's just as bad as some neighboring islands, neighboring countries now. and that's in part because it got pummeled, it got clobbered so badly by Irma and Maria. A lot of people don't forget that before Maria, there was also Irma. That was another hurricane that hit before, but that was a milder one. That didn't hit too hard. And then Maria hit. It got so clobbered that they have been able to, I guess, patch up the grid to get it as functional as possible, but they're not upgrading it.
Okay. Now, before I continue, let me just state that our friend, my cyber daughter, Denise, also has her channel where she produces a lot of great content. So I will ask if you have not done so, please check out her content and subscribe. She just recently did a stream about over a week ago regarding P. Diddy. Okay. And unfortunately, she did her stream the same time I did mine. So, but check it out.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
The only thing that I could say about that is that he's screwed. I mean, they're coming after because now there is this white woman that is trying to sue him. I believe that is trying to put a case on him. Also, in addition to the whole thing about Cassie, I don't want to get into that. That has been talked about to death. So he's screwed. He's going to jail. You'll see.
Well, let's see. Yeah. Well, I did a stream regarding the whole situation, regarding the video that we all saw, which was disgusting. Really disgusting. No one should be subject of abuse like that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what? It may be sooner than this next year. It may be sooner than that.
Something might happen during this year, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, whenever anything else happens, I'm going to be sharing the information here on my platform. Maybe this time I'll be the first one. But going back to the topic at hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Tiger, do you have a platform too? If you do, I'll do that.
I don't know what difference will that make, Armando. You saying that has a Rican grandmother. Even if that were true, we don't know that. Even if that were true, I don't see how that will make a difference. Because I'm sure his grandmother is was a very nice lady.
Well, okay. First of all, Tiger, let me just explain. Since that you knew here on this platform, we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions. And here, I don't censor people. Okay, and everyone is allowed to express their point of view as long as we're all mutually respectable. But going back to the topic, I mean, there are other differences between Puerto Ricans born and raised in the island as compared to Puerto Ricans born here in the United States. Some of us, unfortunately, don't have much of a knowledge regarding our culture.
Mm-hmm. At least when it comes to the diasporans, we have talked about that before because there is this belief that us islanders are gatekeeping. We're kind of like trying to gatekeep the culture. We're not doing that. Any diasporan who actually wants to connect or reconnect to the culture is more than welcome to do that. Visit the island, go around, go to places. What we may not want. This is what I have observed. There are certain diasporans that want to do gatekeeping of the Puerto Rican identity based on race. We on the
Really?
island don't do that. We don't do that. I have come across certain diasporans that go on and on talking about that. If you're not Taino, then you can't be Puerto Rican. You can't be Boricua. If you're not a Taino, you don't have Taino blood or something like that. They're trying to gatekeep the identity based on race, and that's a new one to me. I have
Okay.
been observing that. That's new to me. We on the island, we don't do that. We don't do that. So diasporans who want to gatekeep the identity, the Puerto Rican identity based on race, or because somebody doesn't have Taino blood in them, okay, you need to stop that. You need to stop that because we don't do that on the island. We
Okay.
don't do that gatekeeping based on race because when it comes to race, we're not obsessed with that. I mean, that's a very easy way to stay stuck, be obsessing over race. I mean, the thing is that that whole gatekeeping, that's a new one to me, and we don't do that on the island. Don't bring that to the island. Diasporans are more than welcome to go to visit the island and meet people on the island, learn and connect with people on the island and connect with the culture. But don't be gatekeeping based on race. Don't do that.
Okay. I just want to welcome Julio to the chat. Good evening. Thank you very much for stopping by. You know something, this is something that I was not aware of as a member of the Puerto Rican diaspora. I mean, that's something I would never do. Okay, because I keep saying again, you know, um, you know, there are many differences between us. Okay, and for me, the gate gatekeep, that's way out of line.
Hmm.
But is that being done with the younger generation, or that's done with people of my
This is
generation?
yeah, this is something that I'm seeing maybe with the younger generations because this is something that I don't hear from people that are in our generations that are a little bit older. That seems to be more of a kind of like younger generation trying to do that. They're basing identity almost exclusively on race, and there is more to it than that. We don't we don't we don't do that. We don't do that on the island. I mean, I have shared that whole thing about the influencer who called herself Latina Boricua. She's 100% Chinese, but she was raised on the island, and you can't tell that she's not Puerto Rican. Eh? And there are people that try to tell her, no, you can't be Puerto Rican. You're Chinese. You can't be Puerto Rican. But the girl was raised on the island, and being Puerto Rican is what she knows. I mean, she has, yes, she connects to her to her culture via her parents. But it's been more time that she has spent in Puerto Rico than in China or in Chinatown in New York because she lived for a long time in New York and she may have connected to the Chinese community there, but you can't tell her that she's not Puerto Rican.
Well, see, I find that disappointing as a member of the diaspora because what that does, it creates more of the divide between us, and I think we have enough divisions to try to untangle.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
yeah. Yeah, there are a couple
we-
of Koreans. You saying Coreano Loco. There is another Korean, South Korean that is called the Instagram page is Tu Amigo Coreano, and he speaks Spanish not that well, but he's somebody who says that he's been very happy to be living in Puerto Rico because that has allowed him to live in a different manner, live life in a different manner, and he doesn't have kind of like the restrictions of his culture. Um, so he's been, and people have been very accepting of him.
yeah, you know what? I recall in one of Denise's streams when she spoke about the differences between those that were born and raised in Puerto Rico and those of us that were born and raised here in the mainland. Okay. And some of the diasporan Puerto Ricans got a little annoyed. But the reality is that with even though we both speak Spanish, we both belong to the same culture. Okay, we have, we're part of the Puerto Rican community, but yet it's different because I was born and raised in the mainland. You was born and raised in the island.
Hmm. Hmm.
And Denise made and let me just bring up this point that Denise made. And I kind of wish that Denise can hop on the panel, but I get it. I mean, look, if you want to be a part of the culture, then learn. It's very easy to come back home. We are extremely welcoming people. And I agree. I mean, look, and I
My
think
bad.
the
My
whole
bad. I was looking for something. My bad. Hmm.
yeah, and I think the key is look, if you want to learn, okay, if you really want to learn, you're gonna learn, okay.
Yeah.
And there's okay, there's more to life in Puerto Rico other than San Juan. There's a whole bunch of beautiful cities over there, and I haven't been to Puerto Rico in a long time, but I definitely want to go back and visit.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna be going there soon because there are some things that I have to take care of. Legal stuff that have to do with my with my late mom
Oh yes.
that haven't been settled yet. It's a long process. I mean, when uh, somebody sadly passes and like they don't have like a will, that means that there are things that have to one has to go back and forth trying to settle the affairs and because sometimes processes can be very bureaucratic and slow and man. So yeah, it take a lot of time. Every once in a while, I have to keep going back. I mean, last year I had to take a long weekend, but that was to take care of something. And now in a few days, I'm gonna have to go back, meet with my sister, something that we have to take care of. It's not a vacation. It's not a vacation. I haven't been to a real vacation in years since before my mom's passing. So sometimes
Yeah.
I feel stressed out, but this is something that I have to do. Mhm.
Well, um, all I can say is safe travel to you. And look,
Yeah,
let me
thanks.
tell you something. When my mother passed away, I mean, it was a very sad time, crazy time. And as far as what little possessions my mother had, um, they were all left to me. So, and of course, trying to share with my siblings, and one of my siblings, you know, wanted to get this, get that, get this, get that. It's like, excuse me, we just lost our mother, and you're treating it as like a shopping thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but you know something? Even though we have different, you know, life experiences, there are things that unite us. One of it is language. Even though I know I speak Spanish like a gringo, okay, but at least
Hey,
I
you just have to practice it more. You have to practice it and be around people that can only speak Spanish. That forces you to pull through, to fight through that accent. Because sometimes you might know the words, but the thing is that if you don't get the accent right, then it's difficult to understand you. That's what happens with many North Americans, and I commend them for making the effort to learn the language because it's not the way it used to be. The way it used to be, it was like it was seen as if Spanish was useless and only English was useful. In Spanish will be useless. So you have to let that alone, leave that alone, and only learn English. But it's kind of the other way around now. I mean, you even if you were born in the States and you learn English, but if you also learn Spanish at home, that could be beneficial to you. I mean, because it's practical. It's practical to also know Spanish. That whole thing eradicating Spanish that didn't happen. That didn't work.
Yeah.
They definitely couldn't do it in Puerto Rico, which is a one unique thing that I want to share that about Puerto Ricans, and that is that even though it is a colony of the United States, it is a colony. That is the fact. It's being established because the Commonwealth was never a real thing. The United States at the beginning of the 20th century actually made efforts to eradicate Spanish from the island and force people to only speak English. But the thing is that it didn't work. It didn't work. If they had tried to get people to also learn English and not trying to replace by force Spanish with English, it would have been different. It may have been different. We would have welcomed that change, not change, but that addition. That addition. But the government, I think, the United States tried to do us wrong on that one. That's the only place in the world where the United States couldn't replace the language. They couldn't do it. They did in the Philippines actually, because they used to speak Spanish in the Philippines. Not anymore. Not anymore.
Excuse me. I just want to highlight this comment. I'd rather take Jose's gringo Spanish because he made the effort to come close to his roots rather than those no sabe cocky idiots that want to be Latinos but speak no Spanish.
The whole no sabo thing that makes me laugh.
Uh,
I didn't know about the whole no sabo thing until relatively recently. I had never heard of that.
yeah. Good evening, Have a Time. Thank you very much for stopping by. And just to let everybody know, she also has her channel. So please check out her content. But look, this is the thing. Now,
Before that, can you hear me okay? Because
yeah, it was coming a little muffled at first.
oh, for a moment I was
But I can
muffled,
hear you
but I'm
now.
okay now.
No,
Okay.
now I look, like I said, and I'll be the first one to admit it. My Spanish is not very polished. Okay. And there's a lot of things I still need to learn about the Puerto Rican culture. The thing is, at least I'm trying.
Yeah. Yeah. But you need to use it more often. I don't blame you. I don't blame you for having a heavily accented Spanish. But yeah. If you could work through the accent, and it's not so much the words, but the accent. It will make it easier to understand you.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, sometimes I don't always have the opportunity to practice the Spanish, so it's like it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
no problem. But look, is it? But you know what thing that kind of bothered me?
What
Um,
is it?
Being called a white Latino.
Well, it depends on kind of like, well, I guess it depends on how you want to take it, because you're still not seen the same, not seen as the same as white English speaking North Americans. Even my mom, my beloved mother, and she will be considered white because she actually had blonde hair, naturally blonde hair. I didn't know that, which is curious. This is very curious. I mean, she had like very white skin. She actually had to be careful with not being under the sun too long because she will actually burn. She will actually burn easily. And she had naturally blonde hair, but I didn't know that until she was older. When she was past the 50 years old, and and she retired, and she stopped dyeing her hair because when growing up, when I was younger, she was always dyeing her hair darker colors, kind of like a dark red or a wine color. Those were kind of like the colors that she usually will have her hair. But I didn't know that she was a natural blonde. I mean, she was that European descendant. And she told me that when she lived in New York, people would let her know that she wasn't the same, as a white North American because she was still Hispanic. You see, so it's not seen as the same. So somebody tried to call you a white Latino. Whoever calls you that, they know that you're not the same as a white North American. You see,
Okay.
so again, and that's somebody who is obsessed with race. The people that are always trying to bring up race into the conversation, those people are stuck. They're stuck. They can't see past that. They can't see past the racial argument.
Yeah. See, this is the issue. I choose to embrace all aspects of our culture. Okay. Part of our culture comes from Spain. Part of our culture comes from Africa. And part of our culture comes from the so called indigenous peoples. So, for that reason, I don't consider myself a Black Latino because I am not going to downplay the other aspects of our culture.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, on the island, on the island, like the big part of what is called supposedly European of our culture will be the language, and we fought to keep it. I mean, like I said before, the United States tried to eradicate Spanish from Puerto Rico, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. That was the only place where the United States showed up, colonized, and but they couldn't replace the language. Everywhere else they could do it, but in Puerto Rico they couldn't do it. And we're still everybody speaks Spanish to these days. So, like a quarter of the people learn English for professional reasons, yes, but everybody speaks Spanish now, even though it is a colony.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. And remember, it was once a crime simply to have the Puerto Rican flag.
Oh yeah, that was a jail sentence. That was an automatic 10-year sentence because again, in Puerto Rico we were citizens, but we were second class, so we didn't have First Amendment protections. Because displaying a flag, that's exercising First Amendment rights. We didn't have that. We didn't have that. I mean, displaying the Puerto Rican flag because it had revolutionary connotations. It was started out originally, the original meaning of the flag, it was a revolutionary meaning through it. Even the national anthem, as it was written at first by Lola Rodriguez de Tio, it was a revolutionary anthem. But the thing is that a Spaniard later came in, I forget his name because he's not relevant to me. It was a Spaniard that later came in and changed the lyrics to what it is now, and took the revolutionary flavor of it out and added Columbus added Columbus name into it, which is maybe why I'm not too keen on learning the lyrics. But that was because a Spaniard changed the lyrics. It's not what Lola Rodriguez de Tio first wrote. Now, when it comes to the culture, that is the part of the culture that traces back to the Taínos. El pan de casabe, for example, things like that. And many of the words that we still use and the names of the many of the towns, like Guaynabo, Bayamón, Humacao, Yauco, Gurabo, etc. So many words that are still in use to name parts of the island to this day. That's another part. The African part, hey, all the plantain that we eat, and the dances, all of the bomba dances that we still do to this day, that have been doing for 300 years. Well aware of the African heritage in our culture, contrary to what certain people in the United States like to say, that we are deniers and we are anti-black and we are again. That shows that they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. We have been preserving the African heritage, the African part of our heritage, for the last 300 years.
Yeah,
It's been going on for a long time.
yeah. I just want to welcome, embrace your curls to the chat. Good evening, and I just want to let everybody know she has her own channel. So I'm going to ask you, please check out her content and subscribe.
Yes.
So I apologize for the commercial breaks, but I believe, shutting out whenever another YouTube creator gets on the chat, to let people know regarding Pam. Good evening, daughter.
Good evening.
Hey, Denise, I can barely hear you. Check your microphone.
Let me see. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, it's better.
It's better. Let me turn
Yes,
off the let me turn on the TV. Give me 1 second. Ooh, shy. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how are you doing? And how's my cyber grandchild?
Oh my God, he's a full-blown toddler that's a little terrorizer.
No.
But he's growing strong and oh my God, he's so active, but he's so cute. It's been a very beautiful experience to raise.
Well, next year,
that's wonderful.
next year, I got to go to LA and visit you, all of you.
Definitely. If you don't come, I might go to New York. Because I have to go. I was almost about to go to New Jersey from June in July, but then my family that's over there changed what they were gonna do to, like, when me and MK have our anniversary. So unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to go. But if you don't come by next year, we'll be there. Hey, Monica, right? I bring the sazon to this stream. And I know I've been missing on
Daughter, now we all know about your platform, but being that you've been preoccupied, perhaps you would like to share with the audience a little bit about your channel.
Well, my channel has been down for a hot minute now, but I am doing something in the background. I'm prepping my comeback, and like I said, it's something that has never been seen on my platform. I've not seen it on our little side of YouTube. So get ready. It will, during this summertime, you guys are going to know exactly what I'm prepping for you, but we're coming stronger than ever. It's just, to be honest, I prioritize my son because, me and MK waited for a very long time to have kids, and I wanted to soak it all in. So I am in stay-at-home mode, and I've decided to do it a lot.
Well, we all know that in about a month I will undergo surgery for my
Yes, you mentioned that.
So,
do you feel ready?
It will become a reality when it gets closer to the date. I mean, even though I've been through it before, it's like just getting close to that day. You have all these images that come up, and things of that nature. And to believe it or not, one of the things I started to think about doing is retiring.
Yeah, I think you should look into that. You're in your 60s. You should
Yeah.
just give it like one more year and that's it. Deuces and go and live your life.
Yeah. But well, hopefully when I have my retirement party, you will make your presence felt. You and MK and
Absolutely, absolutely. Just let me know with at least 8 weeks in advance, and I'll be there. I'll be there.
okay. Now, do you have anything else you want to share regarding the myths when it comes to Puerto Ricans?
I wanted to like speak a little bit on the whole situation you were talking about, um, the electricity, the power grid and stuff. I did a lot of research for that. At least I would say 4 or 5 months. It's not gonna get better. It's I don't know, Ramon. I think you were already like old enough to remember that French company that we had. I think it was in the 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, but that was for the
And
water authority.
yeah, they did the same thing. They received a very fragile water system, and they return it to us even worse. Because the
Hmm.
problem, and the problem that a lot of people don't understand, because what we hear constantly, like Latin spaces and from people, is that, oh, you guys are a colony of the United States, you're a part of the United States, you're a territory to the United States. So they assume that we're just soaking up on these federal funds that we get sent, whatever, 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 because people don't read about Puerto Rico. But if people were just to think, you don't have to even read, just think, why would an empire that is rich, that doesn't need anything, that just won over Spain, why would they would love to come to an island and say, oh, I want to assume a responsibility that it's not mine to invest some money in these people that are not my responsibility? Why they would want to give us free money? Is it because they love us? Do you really think an empire works that way? Do you think the United States works that way? If that was the case, then why do we have so many homeless people on the streets? Why do we still have Americans trying to fight for rights? Why do we still have women trying to fight for their rights, etc., etc., etc.? That's not what the United States does. An empire doesn't move that way. An empire comes to different places that they can conquer and forcefully appropriate themselves their resources. And when the sugarcane industry collapsed in Puerto Rico, what they did is just exploited the Puerto Ricans themselves. Until this day, that's what's happening. How do they do that in a country with no more resources to exploit? Well, you exploit them by enslaving them, by sending corrupted corporations into that country and charging them more than what those services cost, by taxing the goods that those people receive, overtaxing them so that you can benefit yourself and enrich yourself while keeping them poor. That's what the United States does to territory. So when people think that, oh, you guys are just soaking up on federal funds, no, we give more to the empire than what we receive. We are literally the enslaved colony of the empire. And we see it with Luma. Luma is just a corporation that was formed, I believe, 60 days before it got the government contract. These people have no prior experience in managing any uh, any power grid of any country. You cannot trace them back to anything, and they just assume the total control over the Puerto Rican power grid. And the people in our island, unfortunately, because there's a vast misinformation and the fear that they put in us through what Ramon mentioned earlier, like the gag law in the 40s, the massacres that we've survived when we have tried to uprise, what happened. We saw it with the Marina in Vieques. We saw what happened to Lolita Lebron. We saw what happened in the 1950s. We saw how Filiberto Ojeda got gunned down like a dog in 2005. So we've seen so many of our people suffer for simply demanding our constitutional rights. If you're gonna make us citizens, we should be allowed to be citizens. And we've seen so much of that the Puerto Rican public is more complacent today than they used to be 50 years ago. And that's why Luma is able to come in and be predatory. That's why all of our politicians can come in and be predatory and make these backdoor deals to screw us over and enrich themselves while keeping us poor. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mentioned the whole thing with the Jones Act, which is kind of like the main thing that has been economically depriving the island and sank the island into this artificial debt that is billions of dollars worth that was created. It was created artificially. I mean, because of the Jones Act mainly. um and also the whole thing with Luma, they are getting this, they have this juicy multi-million dollar contract with the local government, so they're enriching themselves without really having to do anything, because by contract they don't even have the obligation to respond to emergencies, to power outages and emergencies. If there is a storm and a tree comes down and takes down a power line, they don't have the obligation to respond to that right away. I mean, because
Yeah,
that's how weak of our government that the island has. That
and
it
I don't know
doesn't.
if you know that the employees that they are acquiring more and more are Americans, like literally from the United States of America. And they're demanding, like when people walk up to them and try to talk to them, because you know that only 18% of Puerto Ricans speak English. They demand that Puerto Ricans speak to them in English, and it's a perpetual. Uh, yeah, like a perpetual impoverishment of our people. But it's because we allow it. I want people to understand that. And again, I don't have any dog in the fight. It's because we allow it. And it's one of the reasons why I used to be very pro independence, very nationalist, very involved in this type of stuff. But I stopped because I realized that as much as those things do resonate with my values and I do believe in them and I will die believing in them, there's no point in wasting your breath when people are not at a point where they will uprise. Do I think that at some point Puerto Ricans will wake up and fight for their land? I think so, but I don't think it will be in my lifetime. And I'm being very honest. I don't think we're ready. I think we have to see more oppression to a level we've never seen before in order for our people to say, basta, this is it. You're no longer going to come here and exploit us and take stuff from us. But it will take a long time.
Well, I would rather have that happen sooner rather than later. I do agree that it may happen. There may be kind of like a turning point when it comes to that, and it may take some time. How long? I have no idea.
I
But
don't think if you
hopefully, it's not gonna take like 100 years. I mean,
it's gonna take more
people
than
on the island can
100 years.
afford it.
But Ramon, if you look at I like to reference history only for like human behavior, right? If you look at patterns of history, the smaller the country, the longer it takes to revolt. And we see it in the United States, for example. Every 350 years or so, it's when they revolt. Same happens in Russia, same happens in France, etc., etc., etc. It took Spain itself 700 years under Roman rule to revolt. They were Rome's slaves for 700 years. We were under Spain for longer than we've been under the United States, because we were under Spain for almost 400 years. We've only been under America for almost 150. So it will take a very long time. And why does it take a long time? Because when you realize that your livelihood, when your livelihood becomes very difficult, you have no other choice than to look at the reasons why. I don't think Puerto Rico is there yet. We just, and I partook on that. I'm celebrating Maripili as well, but we just celebrated Maripili for a whole week in a country where supposedly we're so broke we can barely afford like goods and food and water and electricity, etc., etc., etc. So we're not at that point yet. And the fact that I'll give you something simple, the Jones Act that you mentioned before. Do you know that the U.S. Virgin Islands do not have to pay the Jones Act?
Yeah, I'm aware of that. That only applies to PR.
That's one thing that if Puerto Rico was, and I hate to use this word, but like if we were not such as politically illiterate, we will come to the U.S. with the argument that if you're giving me my constitutional right says that you're supposed to treat me like an equal citizen. If you're giving these people that are citizens just like me the right to not have this tax over their goods, why do I have it? Not allow me commerce like you do regular Americans, because that alone is sufficient enough for the U.S. to either restitute with reparations, financial reparations in the form of cash payments, or remove the Jones Act and retroactively either give us a tax break or give us anything, something that we could possibly benefit from. So I think in our country, the people that are educated enough to argue this stuff have two enemies. One enemy is the uneducated masses that are controlled by the propaganda that the Cubans that came from Cuba during the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s came and started telling us, oh, don't fight the United States because then you're going to turn into the República Bananeras. And people got scared because that's what they were telling us. And you have the other enemies that you have is the United States themselves. Because you have here the Americans that profit off of our suffering, and also you have our diaspora that's been conditioned to tell us you'll be better if you become a state. But that's because they're not necessarily in touch with what will cost the average jibarito that lives maybe in Yabucoa, Guayanilla, Orocovis, Comerío, Barranquita, what it will cost them to actually become a state. Puerto Rico cannot afford becoming a state. We just can't. If you run the numbers, we cannot become a state.
Excuse me. I'm just gonna get off the topic just briefly. I would have preferred to say this in the backstage, but I don't know if we're gonna have a backstage. But in July, I'm gonna have a visitor.
Oh.
Oh, we know.
Yeah, I don't think Denise knows. Huh?
Finally?
Yes.
Oh, so it's confirmed. She has the ticket. She has the date. Everything.
It's gonna be in July, not December, because even though we haven't had winter in a long time, but it's gonna be sometime in July. She's gonna be here for 2 weeks.
Oh,
Okay.
that's nice. I like that idea.
That's good.
That's in July. So you're gonna be fully recovered from your surgery, right?
Actually, see, I know for a fact for the first 3 weeks at least, I'm going to be using a walker.
Okay.
And then after that, I'll be using a cane. So at least if I get to the point when I can get around with a cane, then I can take her and I can show some of the things in New York, some of the cultural things, some of the Dominican restaurants, and show her the beautiful and awesome Orchard Beach.
Don't start with that.
I feel for Clara. I literally do.
Don't start with Chocha Beach.
Chocha Beach compared to the beautiful Dominican beaches. That's
like a downgrade, Jose. You don't understand.
That's
what you're
basically saying. You have T-Mobile, and you're gonna get Cricket Wireless. That's how bad. You know what? It's not even that bad. I'll tell you what it is. That is basically you saying, I'm gonna get, I don't know, Armand Dupurniac champagne compared to Andre Brut, $6 at Food for Less or Kroger. And that's the difference between Dominican
clear blue water to sewer water. That's basically what it is. Clear blue water to sewer water.
Yeah.
That's how much of a downgrade it is, Jose.
Say,
You
Now,
didn't
that
realize.
woman has stepped in the most beautiful beaches in the world. The Chosha Beach it's an ass puddle wrap in a city. It's not the same. Take her somewhere else.
now I'm gonna share. I'm gonna share just the audio part. This is something that I shared in that I found in TikTok. Just give me a moment. Uh,
Ramon, are you ready to
Lord
campaign
have
for
mercy. From the sense of blind entitlement seem to have, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. From a blind judgmental attitude over other people's appearance or dress, Christ have mercy. Christ have mercy. For the times our sharp political divide blinded our call to care for each other, Christ have mercy. Christ have mercy. When people use loopholes to take advantage of disability benefits, Christ have mercy. Christ have mercy. From a blind attitude over the theft of work Xerox paper for personal use, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. When we attempted to jump the line or skirt the rules to get a vaccine, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. From a lack of courtesy, especially for the elderly, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. From a lack of humility or lack of patience, Christ have mercy. Christ have mercy. From a temptation to cheat at golf tournaments by not reporting strokes or by a foot wedge, Christ have mercy. Christ have mercy. From a blind attitude during COVID of not wearing masks or hoarding toilet paper, Christ have mercy. Christ have mercy. For the times we lacked respect for God, Lord have mercy.
I had to
Is
share.
that's what you wanted to play? I thought it has something to do with something
No,
to do with your lady.
I just want to do something a little humorous. Basic.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Jose, you're putting those brujeria stuff that you've been putting from the day,
Yeah, that was a weird chant.
right? That
No.
sounds like that. He does low key brujeria. I'm telling you, Jose, we're gonna have to go take you and like rebaptize you, rebaptize you again when we see you. I'm joking.
No. Okay. First of all, okay, the reason why I didn't show the video because I didn't want to get hit with a copyright strike. But basically, okay, for those of you who are not Catholic, what is supposedly it's like a litany of the saints. However, this priest decided to do a freestyle version.
Uh-huh.
And when I shared this with Don Amano yesterday, he was laughing hysterically. I just wanted to have a humorous moment.
That sounds like that other brujeria you used to do like a few years ago.
What, bro? What, bro?
That sounds like that brujeria. This is like the part 2.
Oh, come on now. You should know me better than that.
This is part 2 of that brujeria.
No, you should know me better than that, daughter. Why would I do that?
I don't know. Ramon, did that sound like brujeria to you? Like that alternate brujeria?
Yeah, that sounded very ritual like, kind of like a chant for a ritual, people saying. Yeah, that felt a little weird. That felt a little creepy.
That's gonna get me praying for the first time in many years.
Well, you know look. It's been. Let me tell you something.
By the way, Jose, you are white, and Ramon, you are white too. You guys were saying that earlier. Before I forget, you're both white.
Well, I mean,
you're both white people. Stop it. Now, do we go by those laws and like? Do we use phrase Latin America like America uses? No.
No.
Yeah. are white folks?
With no benefit, because I'm not benefiting from it. I mean, I'm not getting any special privileges, any special rights, or any
I mean,
special
but you don't. I don't
nothing.
think you get as. I think Jose benefits from it more than you because you still have your accent.
Yeah, I
Um,
still have my accent, and I still have a natural tan because I'm not all the way white. I can be
no,
under the sun.
no, Ramon, don't make me get ghetto here.
Well,
Don't make me come with one of the Puerto Rican cafeterias because the only
what do you
black
mean?
card that you might have right now is not something we can see. You are white, and that is
well,
okay.
no, okay, daughter, we're
Yeah,
gonna daughter,
I'm
we're gonna
partially
disagree
white.
sharply on this one.
Huh?
We're gonna disagree sharply in this one.
No, you can disagree, but the facts are that you guys are both white.
Okay, but you say that is we have this white privilege that I don't know what it is because I've never had it. I mean, I
No, I'm
still.
not saying that you have white privilege. What I'm saying is like, regardless of, it's like when people say, "Oh, like you have light skin privilege." Well, I don't feel any privilege because I have the same experience as everybody else. But what I'm saying is like that doesn't negate that I'm mixed, and that doesn't negate that you guys are white. Does that make sense?
No,
Yeah,
but the thing,
Jose, all white. Those, you know, those all white men that people be talking about. You're one of those. It's just that you're not a bigot. That's it. That's the only thing.
oh, okay.
Daughter, is that any way to treat your cyber father?
You can look. I can tell you the truth because you cannot take my food stamps like you do those people that you threaten at the office. You're like, either say that I'm mixed or I'll take your Section 8.
See, you know what? I would answer that. I would respond, but the thing is, I don't like to talk about too much about my agency job here because I am
that's something that most likely you need to keep it. Maybe there is some kind of confidentiality that you have to abide by.
Jose, you're a whole Caucasian. Okay, you're a whole.
Right, and he abuses his white privilege, right?
He does because he be treating people like a whole Karen. Do you remember what he said about how he was gonna get someone fired over mayonnaise? Come on, Jose. You know you're whole white.
No. I did not say I was get someone fired over mayonnaise.
You were going to get someone fired over mayo.
No, first of all, it was not fired. The person didn't get fired, as far as I know of. The issue was that she was asking me why I didn't want mayonnaise in my sandwich, and I said it was none of your concern.
You see, like a white person.
So
You're
before
you're a whole shack, Jose. Legit. You know it. And then the blankets at hotels have to be ironed and talk like in hospital 45 degrees and stuff. Jose, you don't want to deal with Jose. Jose exercises his white privilege.
Well, Jose does need the temperatures to be lowered, and it has to be.
And look, he doesn't like the heat like Caucasians do. He is a white.
Yeah. Well, that is that, Jose. That is that because you and I go about the weather and temperature.
Daughter, I'm about as much as white as you love Orchard Beach.
No, look, let me ask you something. Let's if you answer this questionnaire, that might determine if you're white. Have you ever called the manager on someone?
The what?
Have you ever called the manager on someone?
When it's necessary, yes.
Come on, you fell on that one, Jose. You were supposed to say no. Oh man.
Jose.
Jose, you were saying Puerto Ricans do not
Oh,
like
say
to be called white. Well, we know that we're not like North American white. I already told the story about my mom.
Ramon, you're coming out muffled.
yeah, a little muffled.
Okay. First of all, I just believe in getting professional treatment. That's all.
Yeah, but you're one of those white males that are like, I need to enjoy America. I'm gonna send you an American flag on the mail. I'm gonna send you one of those so you can walk around with it.
Wow.
Okay. Well, as long as it isn't like a Confederate flag or something, that would be.
One flag that says America first, or God bless America, or and then a T-shirt that says "Go back to your country." If you wear that, would say nobody will think you're Puerto Rican. I can guarantee you that.
Daughter, are you trying to take away my Puerto Rican card?
No, never, never. Like I said, I'd rather take your gringo Spanish than what we're seeing today, which is like a lot of sensitivity around the topic of diasporans and like first, second, third generation, as if we didn't migrate over here and the cost. You know what? Something that bothers me about my generation, I'm going to express it, is that we don't want to assume the cost of the decisions that we make. The cost of migration is that you no longer benefit, exercise, or enjoy the culture that you come from. And I know this firsthand. You can put, and trust me, MK tries, I try. I cook Puerto Rican food for the most part. You can put 1,000 flags out here. You can play Tito Puente. You can play Frankie Ruiz. You can take me to the beach. You can do Puerto Rican meetings. I can make here café crema, café de lares. This is not Puerto Rico. And for you to be able to get accustomed to my culture, I have to be in island because those are practices and behaviors and beliefs and people that behave a certain way. And that is okay. What I mean to say is like, people associate that in the era of sensitivity and fragility with rejection. I don't have to reject you because we don't share the same culture. I don't hate you because we don't have the same culture. We're just different people and you're of a different culture. And I think diasporans will get more out of the people from the countries they claim to be if they were to say, hey, this is what we formed here with what we know about the culture. Come here so you can learn it. And that way you can feel a little bit closer to home rather than trying to do this imposter. I am Puerto Rican or I am Mexican or I am Salvadorian, whatever. Because to be honest, and I've talked about this with, I know a lot of diasporans that were born and raised in New York that live now in Puerto Rico. As a matter of fact, one of the guys that I interviewed in my channel, Leon Fiscalizador, he was a New York and he moved to Puerto Rico, and he can tell you himself, you can say that you're the same because you really have not experienced the culture, but once you move in, you realize, yo, I was very disconnected. And that's one part that irritates me a little bit and frustrates me because they associate that with rejection, with negative emotions, with a disconnect. There is a disconnect, but it's not a negative one. You just created something different with what you knew. And I think that the more I analyze into that is our people don't feel accepted here. Puerto Ricans don't feel accepted here. Dominicans don't feel accepted here. Mexicans either. So what do you do when the place you go doesn't fully accept you? And then the place that you come from, you can no longer come back. You try to cling to it. You know, agarrarlo por los pelos, aunque no pueda. And then what that creates is that you position yourself in like this cultural limbo. So of course you're always going to be frustrated because you really don't have a cultural identity. And that's what I struggle a lot when I try to talk to people from the diaspora. Embrace who you are. And I get that gringos might not like who you are here because you're not, quote unquote, one of them, but you're still here. Physically, you're here. Legally, you're from here. Just fight for your spot. Push whoever you have to push and fight for your spot here. And we'll come here to learn from you guys your culture. I see more value and I respect that more than you trying to cosplay as a culture that when I and I don't mean that as a disrespect, but when I see diasporans and I know other Latinos that are migrants like me, we don't see ourselves represented on the diaspora, like our culture. We do see what children will be. I see my kid and what I see New Yorkers doing, what I see Puerto Ricans doing. I see it and I say my kid will be like that. And that's a beautiful thing because they created a thing for themselves, but they're not like me. We're different people, but that's not like a negative thing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. But we need to stop to wrap this up. Now, can you guys hang out briefly in the backstage?
Yeah, I can stay for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I can be there for a few minutes, but no, not too long. I do have to do something.
Okay, you're coming out muffled again.
God, and I don't know. I'm not doing anything different still. But let me see.
Yeah. Well, let me just start taking closing remarks. So we're going to start with the person who has a sexual fantasy of being tied down and having 10,000 women weighing 600 pounds each making love to him, who wants to go to Orchard Beach and swim in the ocean over there and get buried in the sand, who wants to get on the subway in the middle of rush hour, the introvert Boricua.
You push him away. Now he doesn't want to talk.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm having a little technical difficulty, so I'll have to address that. But yeah, Don Jose, I appreciate you letting me be on your panel. And what you just said is completely disgusting because you know that I will never be trying to make love, as you call it, to somebody who is more fat
That's
than me.
slander. I won't tell him. That's fine.
No, I can't do it. I can't do it. You know the who I like the thickness in the right places, but somebody who is obese, overweight like that, no, that's not my thing. Not interested. Like you said, stop, please. Don't come at me with that. But Jose, I appreciate you letting me be on your panel. Shout out to the chat. This was a good combo. This was a good conversation. I mean, this could use maybe a part two. Maybe this could be continued because we're only scratching the surface on the subject. I mean, this is something that has been going on for a long time. But so maybe this conversation can continue, maybe. But until then, I appreciate you letting me be on your panel, and I'll hang out. I'll hang out on your backstage for a few minutes. And again, shout out to the chat, you guys. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to put you in the backstage for a moment. Don't go away. Now, daughter, your final thoughts.
Oh, thank God you didn't wish me to like navigate in those disgusting waters. Well, my final thoughts. First of all, I want to thank you for allowing me on your platform. I know it's been a while, and I think I agree with Ramon. I think you need to do like a part two on this. Maybe I don't know, bring more like people from diasporas. Like I don't know if Ramon knows people. I don't know if Juanita wants to jump in from because I know she has from both Dominican and Cuban, like her aspects from the diasporas. But I think for the most part, I think that we have already established the difference. And if I want to leave people with something tonight, we've already established the difference. Like you know it, I know it. When we both go to sleep, we know that we're both different people. Mm-hmm. What I would like for us to focus on is how do we bridge both people? And I think that's something that people hate to focus on because they'd rather be right than to unite. And it's a shame because we could do so much together. Together, we're always going to be stronger. Together, we're going to be more. And but we have to understand. Yes, we're different. Yes, we have different backgrounds. Yes, American Latinos know a lot more than us when it comes to America. We're new here. We don't know shit. We know about back in our countries. This is their turf. We need to respect that and we need to learn from them. And also, we have to be welcoming and teaching them, if they're interested in it, our culture. And I think, like I said, I would want for us as Latinos to get to the point in which we concentrate more on bridging the gap, getting stuff done for our people. I don't care from which country you're from, but I think that is vital. Especially, I'm going to speak from the Puerto Rican community. For us, is going to require a lot, and a lot of dialogue. Like Morena said, a lot of dialogue between diasporans and us. Why? For two reasons. Because we know that our diaspora has been placed here for a very long time, especially the one in New York, Chicago, and Florida. And also because as circumstances on the island get worse and worse, more of our people are coming here for the first time. I'm part of that wave. Yes, I've been here 11 years, but still, I'm part of that wave. And and unfortunately, we're going to need people that are more experienced than us as dealing with gringos, people that have more experience in different areas and know more about the political intricacies of this country. Because to be honest with you, those things are not taught in the island unless you and your parents can afford you proper education. I was lucky enough to have attended private school, so I was taught certain things, but the majority of people are not. And I think that if we go through the different diasporas, they have all gone through the same stuff. So again, what I want to leave this with is stop trying to cosplay as something that we both know you're not, and try to look for what can we do together with both pieces of the puzzle. Because that's what we hope, different pieces of the same puzzle. And with that being said, once again, thank you for having me on. Wait for, Latin explaining the comeback very soon. I will be announcing it on my my channel as well as my Instagram. And I'm gonna start announcing this week. Guys, watch for my Instagram because I'm going to plug in my X, my Twitter, so you guys can connect to it. With that being said, Jose, that's it. Thank you. Bye.
Well, thank you, daughter. You've been sorely missed, without a doubt. But we understand the why. With that being said, I'm going to put you in the backstage. And thank you very much for your presence. So, now, I'm going to give you my final thoughts. I'm glad we were able to have this discussion. It was something that needed to be said. As far as a part two, we will see. We will see. But in any case, huge shout out to everyone that appeared in the chat, and a huge shout out to the Intro Boricua and my cyber daughter. So, of course, all of you are more than welcome to comment after the stream. Just keep it respectable. And, of course, we're going to end this by saying the following. We must do everything possible to avoid the presence of the mentally, intellectually challenged, because if we fail to do so, we will be infected by the stupidity and massive insanity. This has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron saying good night, take care, and peace.